लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय गौरानिताय 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 जय गौरानिताय नित्य गौर हरि बोल। प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयामुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत श्रीराधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्तकांचन गौरांगी श्रीराधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। So 9th verse onwards to 14th verse. Different paths of knowledge, and something about absolute also, and how the knowledge relates to the absolute. All these things are given. Knowledge about Krishna, how there are different paths in this knowledge. That is, andam tama pravishanti ya vidya upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo yo vidyayam vatah. Andam tama pravishanti ya vidyam upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo ya u vidyayamrtah. Krishna Priya Mataji read.
Hare Krishna Dandava Pranam Mataji. Andam tama pravishyante yaya vidyamupashyate
ये विद्याम उपासते
vidyamupashyate tato bhuya ivate tamo yayo vidyayamrtaha.
Okay. नीरज प्रभु read.
अंधं तमा प्रविश्यन्ति ये विद्यामुपासते ततो भूय इव ते तमो याउ विद्यायां प्रता.
नारायण read.
अंधं तमा प्रविश्यन्ति ये विद्याम उपासते ततो भूय ये विद्याम उपासते.
Actually, that should be pronounced little bit. Ya vidyam upasate.
ये विद्याम उपासते.
Ya vidyam upasate. Ya vidyam.
य विद्याम उपासते ततो भूय इव ते तमो य उ विद्यायामृताः.
Okay. Now, andham means ignorance. Tamaha, darkness. Pravishanti enters into. Ye, those who. Avidyam, science. Upasate, worship. Tataha, then that. Bhuya, still more. Ivate, Bhuya, still more. Ivate, like they. Tamaha, darkness. Ye, those who also Vidyayam, in the culture of knowledge, Rataha, engaged. Now, those who engage in the culture of nescient activities will enter into the darkest region of ignorance. Worse still are those engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge. Yes. As much as avidya is very dangerous, avidya, so-called vidya is also dangerous. Nescience, that means the knowledge about the materialistic activity is also dangerous. Knowledge about so-called heavenly pleasures is also dangerous. So culture of nescient activities. Nescient activities refers to materialistic activities and all nonsensical activities, whatever done in the mode of ignorance, that anyhow is going to go in the darkest region of ignorance and so-called knowledge. Now, there are some people who call themselves as Vedavadarataha, we studied in Bhagavad Gita, so-called supposed knowledgeable people of the Vedas. They may be expert in chanting the Vedic mantras, but they don't know the purpose of the Vedas. So they may think the Vedic knowledge is for dharma, artha, kama, moksha. And what is moksha for a knowledgeable person? Entering into Brahman. So that is also dangerous because there a person loses his identity, his personal relationship with Lord. So culture of so-called knowledge is also very dangerous. In that knowledge, a person may have the goal to get liberated. But what is liberation according to that Jnani? Entering into Brahman. So both are worst. At least here he goes in the region of ignorance where he forgets his identity with Krishna. And there he enters Brahman, there that is more worst. Why? Because he has completely lost his identity. There is a lot of difference. Here he is identifying himself. He has some false ego. There, though he thinks that, oh, I'm not the body, I'm soul, but there also that is more worse because he is not having that identification with Lord. Something is known as illusion, something is known as delusion. Delusion is the most degraded form of illusion. So that has been told here. So comparative study is given. What is Vidya? What is Avidya? Vidya is ignorance. That is anyhow dangerous. Avidya is ignorance. That is dangerous. Vidya or knowledge is even more dangerous when mistaken or misguided. So the Prabhupada very clearly writes. When it is mistaken or misguided, then the knowledge also becomes more dangerous. It is better to be a roadside duffer, isn't it? But it is dangerous to become a scientist and invent many new bombs and all those things, which destroys the whole world. Many scholars, many scientists, because of them only, we got virus spread over everywhere. It was a laboratory created virus, which made the whole world suffer. That is what the news say. Whole world suffered because of the laboratory Being a duffer is better than becoming a so-called knowledgeable person. So being ignorant is better. It is worst anyhow, but more than that, worst is having the knowledge but not taking shelter of Krishna. It is a use. Okay. Anija Prabhu, read 2 paragraphs.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranam. This mantra offers a comparative study of Vidya and Avidya. Avidya or ignorance is undoubtedly dangerous, but Vidya or knowledge is even more dangerous when mistaken or misguided. This mantra of Shri Isopanisad is more applicable today than at any time in the past. Modern civilization has advanced considerably in the field of mass education, but the result is that people are more unhappy than ever before because of the stress placed on material advancement to the exclusion of the most important part of life, the spiritual aspect. As far as Vidya is concerned, the first mantra has explained why clearly the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of everything, and that forgetfulness of this fact is ignorance. The more a man forgets this fact of life, the more he is in the darkness. In view of this, a godless civilization directed towards the so-called advancement of education is more dangerous than a civilization in which the masses of people are less educated.
Yes.
Should I continue?
Better is, yes, better, wait. Better is less education. What is happening? More education, more modernization, more backwardness. We are forgetting our relationship with Krishna. Okay, Vandana Mataji, read from here.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Of the different classes of men, karmis, jnanis, and yogis, the karmis are those who are engaged in the activities of sense gratification. In the modern civilization, 99.9% of people are engaged in these activities of sense gratification under the flags of industrialism, economical development, altruism, political activism, and so on. All these activities are more or less based on satisfaction of the senses to the exclusion of the kind of God consciousness described in the first mantra. Should I continue, Mataji?
Yes.
In the language of the Bhagavad Gita 7.15, people who are engaged in gross sense gratification are mudhas, asses. The ass is a symbol of stupidity. Those who simply engage in the profitless pursuit of sense gratification are worshipping avidya, according to Sri Isopanisad. And those who play the role of helping this sort of civilization in the name of educational advancement are actually doing more harm than those who are on the platform of gross sense gratification. The advancement of learning by a godless person is as dangerous as a valuable jewel on the hood of a cobra. A cobra decorated with valuable jewel is more dangerous than one not decorated. In the Hari Bhakti Subodhya 3.11.12, the advancement of education by a godless person, a people, is compared to a decoration on a dead body. In India, as in many other countries, some people follow the custom of leading a procession with a decorated body for the pleasure of the lamenting relatives. In the same way, modern civilization is a patchwork of activities meant to cover the perpetual miseries of material existence. All such activities are aimed toward sense gratification, but above the senses is the mind, and about the mind is the intelligence, and about the intelligence is the soul. Thus, the aim of real education should be self-realization, realization of the spiritual values of the soul. Any education which does not lead to such realization must be considered avidya or nescience. And to culture such nescience means to go down to the darkest region of ignorance.
So sense gratification at the level of senses, that is also dangerous only. But more dangerous is at the level of mind. And the most dangerous is at the level of intelligence. At the level of senses, it is just to enjoy the sense objects. At the level of mind, even though it tries to give up the sense objects, but the mind is hovering in that sense object. That is why it's known as mithyachari. In Bhagavad Gita, we have studied mithyachar or pretender. But at the level of intelligence, what is the sense gratification? He tries to become one with God. Sometimes he thinks himself only as God. That is more dangerous. So he may try to show that he is a renunciate and all those things. But somehow he wants that respect of Lord to be given to him. That is more dangerous. So it is better for a sense enjoyer, that is, sense enjoyer is better than that so-called renunciate who wants himself to be proclaimed as God. So continue from here. Jumur,
Mataji,
continue.
one
1 minute.
small clarification.
Wait. Jumur, continue.
From according to
I'll take all the doubts last.
according to the Bhagavad Gita 2.42 7.15, mistaken mundane educators are known as Veda Vadarata
Veda
and Maya
Vadarataha, Maya Prahutta Jnana.
Maya Parta Jnana. They may also be atheistic demons, the lowest of men. Those who are Veda Vadarata pose themselves as very learned in the Vedic literature, but unfortunately they are completely diverted from the purpose of the Vedas. In the Bhagavad Gita 15.15, it is said that the purpose of the Vedas is to know the personality of Godhead, but these Veda Vadarataha men are not at all interested in the personality of Godhead. On the contrary, they are fascinated by such fruitive results as the attainment of heaven. Should I read further?
Yes.
As stated in Mantra 1, we should know that the personality of Godhead is the proprietor of everything and that we must be satisfied with our allotted portions of the necessities of life. The purpose of all Vedic literature is to awaken this God consciousness in the forgetful living being, and the same purpose is presented in various ways in the different scriptures of the world for the understanding of a foolish mankind. Thus, the ultimate purpose of all religions is to bring one back to Godhead. But the Veda Vadarata people, instead of realizing that the purpose of the Vedas is to revive the forgetful soul's lost relationship with the personality of Godhead, take it for granted that such side issues as the attainment of heavenly pleasure for sense gratification, the lust for which causes their material bondage in the first place, are the ultimate end of the Vedas. Such people misguide others by misinterpreting the Vedic literature. Sometimes they even condemn the Puranas, which are authentic Vedic explanations for laymen. The Veda Vadaratas give their own explanations of the Vedas, neglecting the authority of great teachers called Acharyas. They also tend to raise some unscrupulous person from among themselves and present him as the leading exponent of Vedic knowledge. Such Veda Vadaratas are especially condemned in this mantra by the very appropriate Sanskrit word Vidyayam Rataha. Vidyayam refers to the study of the Vedas because the Vedas are the origin of all knowledge, Vidya, and Rataha means those engaged. Vidyayam Rataha thus means those engaged in the study of the Vedas. The so-called
Vedavadarata Rataha. See, there also it is Vedavadarata Rataha Vidyayam Rataha.
The so-called students of the Vedas are condemned herein because they are ignorant of the actual purpose of the Vedas on account of their disobeying the Acharyas. Such Veda Vadaratas search out meanings in every word of the Vedas to suit their own purposes. They do not know that the Vedic literature is a collection of extraordinary books that can be understood only through the chain of disciplic succession.
Yes, very clearly it has been said here, those who are knowledgeable, so-called knowledgeable people, Vedavada, Rataha. Rataha means in pursuit of the knowledge. So Vidya here also Vidyayam Rataha. So what type of knowledge? The knowledge which suits their sense gratification. There the knowledge is not to gain bhakti. The knowledge is not to revive their lost relationship. Here they adjust the meaning according to their senses or sense enjoyments or according to their convenience. Okay, Daya Sagar Kapoor, read from here.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. One must approach a bona fide spiritual master in order to understand the transcendental message of the Vedas. That is the direction of the Mundaka Upanishad, 1.2.12. These Vedavadarata people, however, have their own acharyas, who are not in the chain of transcendental succession. Thus they progress into the darkest region of ignorance by misinterpreting the Vedic literature. They fall even farther into ignorance than those who have no knowledge of the Vedas at all. The Maya Pahrita Jnana class of men are self-made gods. Such men think that they themselves are God and that there is no need of worship any other God. They will agree to worship an ordinary man if he happens to be rich, but they will never worship the personality of Godhead. Such men, unable to recognize their own foolishness, never consider how it is that God can be entrapped by Maya, his own illusory energy. If God were ever entrapped by Maya, Maya would be more powerful than God. Such men say that God is all-powerful, but they do not consider that if he is all-powerful, there is no possibility of his being overpowered by Maya. These self-made gods cannot answer all these questions very clearly. They are simply satisfied to have become God themselves.
Okay. These self-made gods cannot answer all these questions very clearly. They are simply satisfied to have become God themselves. That is how Vidyayam Rataha, they are more dangerous because by the so-called knowledge, they fool the innocent people. They pose themselves to be some Siddha Purushas and all these things. And by that, they are fooling people. Instead of taking people to God consciousness, they make them go away from Lord, proclaiming themselves as God. That is why culture of nescient knowledge. Okay, nescient knowledge means sensory activities. But more dangerous than that is this culture of the knowledge by which he is actually trying to satisfy his intelligence, his corrupted intelligence, the corrupted intelligence where he thinks himself as God. He tries to be a renunciate, he tries to do some tapasyas, he tries to fool people in this. Okay, Anija Prabhu, what doubt you had?
There was a reference, profitless pursuit of sense gratification. What does this exactly means? That sense gratification activities are profitless means there is no spiritual profit, or there is any other interpretation?
Those who simply engage in the profitless pursuit of sense gratification and worshipping avidya, according to the ass is a symbol of stupidity. Yes, profitless pursuit. What is the gain? What is the profit? What is the gain? So much of hard work. Shamaeva hi kevalam, whole day hard work. What is the use? After doing that, he has no time to chant also.
profitless
time.
word is there. I
Profitless.
was
Yes,
just
no
thinking,
gain.
in material
gain.
activities, there is always material gain. So should I take it? There is no spiritual profit. It refers to
Yes.
that.
When you say profitless pursuit of sense gratification, now sense gratification is happening, but it is profitless. Why? The goal of life is not achieved. Okay. Any other doubt?
No.
Okay. Let us see the next. Anyadevahurvidyayan. Anyadahuravityayan. Anyadahuravitya iti shushrumadhirana yenastadvichakshise. Anyadevahurvidya. Anyadahurya. Vidya. Anyadevahurvidya. Anyadahuravitya iti shushrumadhiranam yenastadvichakshire. Anyadevahurvidya. Anyadahuravitya iti shushrumadhiranam yenastadvichakshise. Vichakshire. So Dhiranam, the Dhira Purusha, how they are explaining, there are different results derived from Vidya and different results derived from Avidya. Avidya means culture of miscient knowledge, Avidya. And there is a different result by the culture of the so-called knowledge. Okay, read the verse. Dayasagar Prabhu read the verse and Jumur will read the verse. Then Tiwari Prabhu will read the verse.
Anyayad eva hurvidyaya, anyada hurravidyaya, iti sushrumadhiranam, yenastad vichachakshire.
Very good. Jumur.
हाँ अन्यदेवाहुर्विद्ययात् अन्याद् आहुरविद्ययात् इति शुश्रूमधीराणां येन तद्विचक्षिरे.
Next, Tiwari Prabhu.
हरे कृष्ण माता जी. हरे कृष्ण माता जी.
Read.
Yes.
Anyadevahurvidya.
विद्यया अन्यद् आहुर अविद्यया इति शुश्रुण एनस्तद् विचक्षिरे.
Chakshire. Now, in the purpose, Srila Prabhupada writes, one should culture knowledge in the following way. How to culture the knowledge or how to attain the knowledge. We have studied in 2.7, that is the process of surrenderance. 4.34 also process of surrenderance. 13.8 to 12 is also process of surrenderance. In the 2.7, what Arjuna says, Karpanya dosho pahata svabhava puchhamitvam dharma sammura cheta yashre yasyad nishchitam bruhitan me shishyasteham shadi mam tvam prapannam. O Lord, I am completely afflicted by this, by confusion. I am completely confused. So I don't know what to do in the matters of religion. That is why I am taking shelter of you. Karpanya dosha, I am afflicted by this disease, Pupadataha, where I am unable to decide what to do, what not to do. So, Karpanya dosho pahata svabhavaha pruchhamitvam dharma sammula cheta. I am asking to you what to do. Pruchhamitvam dharma sammula cheta. Yash shreyasyat nishchitam bruhitan. Tell me one thing which is good for me. That is how the question is asked by Arjuna in the second chapter. When Krishna spoke two things, according to Arjuna, it is two things. In one place, Krishna says, Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachan. Another place in the second chapter itself, Krishna says, Gadi Prabhu, am I going to go on muting yourself, or am I going to concentrate in studying, in teaching? Every time when you join, I don't know why your phone is always open. Don't expect me to do this work now.
Mataji, it is
Or
already
I'm
muted.
going to remove you from this. Every
Mataji
time it
told-
is happening. It's not one time. This is the second time I'm doing this.
Okay, sorry, Mataji. It is already muted.
I did now. 2 times I'm doing this. I'm not supposed to do this again. You should understand, if you are unmute, then you should mute yourself. It's not my work to do this, because I am going to refer to the subject, or I'm going to do this work.
Sorry, Mataji. Sorry.
Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadakshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Now in the second chapter, what happened? 2 times Krishna has said. One way Krishna says, karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Do your work. Another place Krishna says, durena yavaram karma. Keep aside all the abominable activities in a far distance. So Arjuna is completely confused. Then Arjuna is again asking the question in the third chapter. Again in the third chapter, Krishna speaks about that self-realized souls, 3.17, if you see self-realized souls, they have no work. And he says, now what to do? I'm completely confused. He says, Tadviti pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadakshanti te jnanam jnanina sattvadarshinaha. Oh Krishna, I have taken shelter of yours. Please let me know what is, how to, this is also a process of surrenderance. How to attain the knowledge. This is also a process of surrenderance. Now, in this process of surrenderance, now again, if you see 13th chapter, 8 to 12th verse, 13th chapter, 8 to 12th verse, there also, what is the process of surrenderance? The first process of surrenderance is humility, amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, shanti, arjava, acharyopasanam, shaucham, stairyam, atma vinigraha. So if you see those verses, that has been put into 18 points. This is the way to culture the knowledge. First is amanitva. One should become a perfect gentleman and learn to give proper respect to others. Amanitva. Adambitvam. One should not pose himself as a religionist simply for name and fame. Ahimsa. One should not become a source of anxiety to others by the action of his body, by the thoughts of his mind, and by his words. Shantir. One should learn forbearance even in the face of provocation from others. Arjavam. One should learn to avoid duplicity in his dealings with others. Acharyopasanam. I have opened 13th chapter 8 to 12. You also open simultaneously, and then you can correlate with points which is given by Srila Prabhupada. Acharyopasanam. One should search out a bona fide spiritual master, one who can lead him gradually to the stage of spiritual realization. One should submit himself to such a spiritual master, render him service, and ask relevant questions. Shaucham. In order to approach the platform of self-realization, one should follow the regulative principles enjoined in the revealed scriptures. Shaucham. Then comes Stairyam. One should be fixed in the tenets of the revealed scriptures. Atma Vinigraha. One should completely refrain from practices which are detrimental to the interest of self-realization. Then comes Indriyartheshu Vairagyam. One should not accept, one second, Stairyam Atma Vinigraha. Yeah. One should not accept more than required for the maintenance of the body. Indriyartheshu Vairagyam. Anahankara evacha. One should not falsely identify himself with a gross material body, nor should one consider those who are related to his body to be his own. Janma Mrityu Jara Vyati. One should always remember that as long as he has a material body, he must face miseries of repeated birth, old age, disease, and death. There is no use in making plans to get rid of these miseries of the material body. The best course is to find out the means by which one may regain the spiritual identity. Dukkha doshanu darshanam. One should not be attached. One minute. Dukkha doshanu darshanam, that is in the covered in the 12th point only. The best course is to find out the means by which one may regain his spiritual body and come out of this dukkha. Okay. Asaktir anabhishwanga. Asaktir anabhishwanga. One should not be attached to more than the necessities of life required for spiritual advancement. Putra dara gruhadishma. One should not be more attached to wife, children, and home than the revealed scriptures ordain. Nityam cha samachittatvam. Nityam cha samachittatvam. One should not be happy nor distressed over desirables and undesirables, knowing that such dealings are just created by the mind. Ishta nishtopapettishu. Any other that has been covered here. Ishta means desirables, anishta means not desirable. Maicha ananya yogena bhakti abdavicharini. One should become an unalloyed devotee of the personality of God, Sri Krishna, and serve him with rapt attention. Maicha ananya yogena. Bhaktir avyavicharini. Both has been covered here. Unalloyed devotee. Then Vivikta Desha Sevikvam Artir Jana Samsadi. One should develop a liking for residence in a secluded place with a calm and quiet atmosphere, favorable for spiritual culture. And one should avoid congested places where non-devotees congregate. Okay. Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam. Tattva-jnanartha darshanam. Etaj jnanam iti proktam. Ajnanam yatato natha. So one should become a scientist or a philosopher and conduct research into spiritual knowledge, recognizing that spiritual knowledge is permanent, whereas material knowledge ends with the death of the body. Now just see, Prabhupada started with these 18 items so that one gradually, to form a gradual process by which real knowledge can be developed. Except for these, all other methods are considered to be in the category of nescience. Etaj jnanam iti proktam. Very clearly Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter, last verse, that is 8 to 12, the 12th verse. Adhyatma jnana nityatvam tattva jnanartha darshanam etaj jnanam iti proktam ajnanam yad atonyatha. So somebody can ask, what is nescience? Very clearly it has been said, any knowledge apart from this 18 types of knowledge has been given. Any knowledge apart from this is ajnanam. Whatever knowledge by which one develops his spiritual consciousness, that is real knowledge. Any other thing beyond this is ajnanam. Okay. Gadadhar Prabhu, read from there, Sri Bhakti Vinod Thakur. From there. Unmute yourself.
From the starting of the purport, I should read all the 18 points?
No. I read all the 18, I compared also. Now in the second paragraph, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. From there you read.
These 18 items combine to form a gradual.
Your voice is not heard properly.
Hare Krishna Mataji, what I'm saying is
your connectivity is not proper, Prabhu. Okay,
I'm
Neeraj,
audible. I'm audible now.
So
I am
audible,
audible.
but in between it goes. So let Neeraj Prabhu read.
Okay. Hare
Hare Krishna, Hari Bol. Thank you, Mataji. Dandavat Pranam. Sri Bhakti Vinod Thakur, a great acharya, maintained that all forms of material knowledge are merely external features of the illusionary energy, and that by culturing them, one becomes no better than an ass. The same principle is found here in Sri Isopanisad. By advancement of material knowledge, modern men is simply by being converted into an ass. Some materialistic politicians in a spiritual guise decry the present system of civilization as satanic, but unfortunately, they do not care about the culture of real knowledge as it is described in the Bhagavad Gita. Thus, they cannot change the satanic situation. In the modern society, even a boy thinks himself self-sufficient and pays no respect to elderly men. Due to the wrong type of education being imparted in our universities, boys all over the world are giving their elders headaches. Thus, Sri Ishopanishad very strongly warns that the culture of nescience is different from that of knowledge. The universities are, so to speak, centers of nescience only. Consequently, scientists are busy discovering lethal weapons to wipe out the existence of other countries. University students today are not given instructions in the regulative principles of brahmacharya, that is, celibate student life, nor do they have any faith in any scriptural injunctions. Religious principles are taught for the sake of name and fame only, and not for the sake of practical action. Thus, there is animosity not only in the social and political fields, but in the field of religion as well. Should I continue, Mataji?
Continue.
Nationalism has developed in different parts of the world due to the cultivation of nescience by the general people. No one considers that this tiny earth is just a lump of matter floating in immeasurable space along with many other lumps. In comparison to the vastness of space, these material lumps are just like dust particles in the air. Because God has kindly made these lumps of matter complete in themselves, they are perfectly equipped with all necessities for floating in space. The drivers of our spaceships may be very proud of their achievements, but they do not consider the supreme driver of these greater, more gigantic spaceships called planets. Should I continue, Mataji?
Yeah.
There are innumerable suns and innumerable planetary systems also. As infinitesimal parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, we small creatures are trying to dominate these unlimited planets. Thus, we take repeated birth and death and are generally frustrated by old age and disease. The span of human life is scheduled for about 100 years, although it is gradually decreasing to 20 to 30 years. Thanks to the culture of nescience, befooled men have created their own nations within these planets in order to grasp sense enjoyment more effectively for these few years. Such foolish people draw up various plans to render national demarcation perfectly, a task that is totally impossible. Yet for this purpose, each and every nation has become a source of anxiety for others. More than 50% of a nation's energy is devoted to defense measures and thus spoiled. No one cares for the cultivation of real knowledge. Yet people are falsely proud of being advanced in both material and spiritual knowledge. Sri Ishopanishad warns us of this faulty type of education, and the Bhagavad Gita gives instructions as to the development of real knowledge. This mantra states that the instructions of Vidya, that is knowledge, must be acquired from a dhira. A dhira is one who is not disturbed by the material illusions. No one can be undisturbed unless he is perfectly spiritually realized, at which time one neither hankers nor laments for anything. A dhira realizes that the material body and mind he has acquired by chance through material association are but foreign elements. Therefore, he simply makes the best use of the bad bargain.
Okay, Dhira realizes The material body and the mind is acquired by chance through material association are but foreign enemies. That is how best use of a bad bargain. What's a bad bargain? Getting the birth again is a bad bargain. But then, what is the best use? How nicely we can use our time, our samarthya in developing Krishna consciousness or in progressing in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada writes very nicely that 50% of the nation's energy is used only in defense. That is how the exploitation of the national wealth happens. Same wealth can be used for propagating Krishna consciousness. So many temples can be made. So many teachings of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam can be promoted. So many institutions who are into Sanatan Dharma can be helped, just for some greater fear, for that only defense measures are there. You see, so how many protection is given to a single every politicians, and so much of defense everywhere, defense services and all. How much money is spent? That is why it is said here. Yet people are falsely proud of being advanced in both material and spiritual knowledge. That also Prabhupada says. That nobody is interested in gaining the real knowledge. And Bhagavad Gita gives us instruction how to develop the real knowledge. So that's why Isopanisad is warning us that don't try to gain some false knowledge, which has no sense. Okay. Gadi Prabhu, read from here.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Danut Pranam. The material body and mind are bad bargains for the spiritual living entity. The living entity has actual functions in the living spiritual world, but this material body is dead. As long as the living spiritual sparks manipulate the dead lumps of matter, the dead word appears to be living word. Actually, it is the living souls, the parts and parcels of the supreme living being, who move the word. The Dhiras have come to know all these facts by hearing them from superior authorities and have realized this knowledge by following the regulative principles. To follow the regulative principles, one must take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. This transcendental message and regulative principles come down from the spiritual master to disciple. Such knowledge does not come in the hazardous way of nascent education. One can become a dhira only by submissively hearing from a bona fide spiritual master. Arjuna, for example, became dhira by submissively hearing from Lord Krishna, the personality of the Godhead himself. Thus, the perfect disciple must be like Arjuna, and the spiritual master must be as good as Lord himself. This is the process of learning Vidya knowledge from the dhira, the undisturbed. An adhira, one who has not undergone the training of dhira, cannot be an instructive leader. Modern politicians who pose themselves as dhiras are actually adhiras, and one cannot expect perfect knowledge from them. They are simply busy seeing to their own remuneration in dollars and cents. How then can they lead the mass of people to the right path of self realization? Thus, one must hear submissively from a dhira in order to attain actual education. Hare Krishna.
Yes. So to get real knowledge, one should hear from Dhira Purusha. And who is a Dhira Purusha? Very nicely in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Dehinosmin tha dehe kaumaram yuvanam jara tatha dehantara prapti dhiras putra muhyati. So, Dhira Purusha is not at all bewildered by seeing the change in this material world, because change is the nature of the material world. Nasato vidyate bhavo na bhavo vidyate sta ubhayorupi dushtontah tvanayastvatdarshibihi. So darshibihi dhira purushaha. They are tattvadarshis. They know the nature of this material world. So knowledge can be gained from them only. So who is adhira? Who has not undergone the training of adhira? He cannot be an instructive leader. So the modern politicians, those who pose themselves as dhiras, they are actually adhiras. Like that is why we cannot expect any knowledge from them. So very clearly it has been said, if we really want Ishta Siddhi means the desirables, whatever desirables we want, then we have to give up Anishta Nivritti. We should give up the undesirable things. If we really want to progress in devotional service, then we should cultivate real knowledge. Then Anishta Nivritti means those undesirable things where the sense gratification is kept at priority, or liberation is kept at priority, that all has to be given up. More than sense gratification, the worst is desire for liberation. Even worse than desire for liberation is the desire for considering one as God, oneself as God. So in this way, these are all sense gratifications at different level, at the level of mind, at the level of senses, at the level of intelligence that has been given. Now let us see. Vidyam cha yas tad vidho bhayam saha vidyaya mrityum tirtva vidyayamritam ashrute. Vidyam cha yastad vedo bhayam saha avidyamrityum tirtva vidyayamritam ashrute. Vidyam cha yastad vedo bhayam saha avidyamrityum tirtva vidyayamritam ashrute. Vidyam cha yastad vedo bhayam saha avidyamrityum tirtva vidyayamritam ashrute. Jumur read. Then Gadi Prabhu will read. Then Manoj Jha Prabhu will read.
Yes, okay. Vidyam cha yas tadvedo bhayam saha avidyaya mrityum tirtva vidyaya mritamashnute.
Very good. Gadi Prabhu.
Krishna. Vidyayam cha yash tad vedo bhayam saha avidyaya mrityam tirtva vidyaya amritam ashnute.
Okay, Manoj Jha Prabhu.
विद्यायां च यस्तद्वेदो भयं सः अविद्यायां मृत्युं तीर्त्वा विद्यायामृतम् अश्नुते.
Okay. Vidyam cha avidyam cha yastad veda ubhayam sah. Avidyayam mrityum tirtva vidyayam mritam ashrute. Amritam ashrute. So vidya and avidya. Now if we see the process of science, avidya, and then side by side, if we learn what is real vidya, now here which vidya has been spoken about real vidya. The culture of science will only give us repeated birth. But one can transcend this just by developing real vidya, by which one ashnute amrutam, one enjoys deathlessness. So in the previous verse, Krishna speaks about what is real vidya. Okay, what is the result of gaining culture of knowledge? What is the result of gaining culture of science? But then what is the culture of gaining real knowledge? One can completely take shelter of Krishna and get complete protection from Krishna. Complete protection for crossing this birth and death cycle that has been given here. Vidyam cha yastad veda ubhayam saha. Both has to be known, what is vidya and what is avidya. Now, if you see in the 9th verse, which vidya has been spoken? The knowledge by which one forgets Krishna. He calls himself knowledgeable, but is only Veda Vadarataha. Vidyayam rataha, where he is actually forgetting the purpose of the Vedas. Now, in the previous verse, what is spoken? What is the result of both? What is the result derived by culture of knowledge? What is the result derived by the culture of science? Any other person who develops avidya is completely lost in this world. But if he has to gain knowledge, then he should gain knowledge from Dhira Purusha, not Adhira Purusha, from Dhira Purusha. That is from disciplic succession. And if he knows Vidya, he should know Avidya also. Then only he will go in the path of Vidya. If he doesn't know what is wrong, he cannot prove what is right. So you should know the consequences or the result of Avidya also, like drinking cigarette. That is Avidya. So then the knowledge also we should know what is the result of such smoking. So if he knows that what is avidya, what is the result of avidya, then he will try to gain the knowledge. How? By taking shelter of Dhira Purusha. So he should also know that if he tries to gain knowledge by his own endeavor, he will be only a supposed scholar of Vedas. So here very clearly it has been said, if he gains knowledge by taking shelter of Dhira Purusha, then he can transcend Mrityum Tirtva. He can transcend the Mrityu. Again, he can get the blessings of immortality. Amrutam Ashnuti. So if a person knows what is wrong, then only he can justify what is right. Sometimes we think, oh, our children should not see what is wrong. So that is why let us have the education in such a way that he should never be shown the material world. That is also not right. You teach him or teach her what is Vidya, what is real knowledge. At the same time, show what is wrong. Then only he will have complete confidence on his path. To have the complete confidence on the path shown by Srila Prabhupada, one should see the consequences of the people who are in the wrong path. I will just close my eyes. I will not even see what is going on in the material world. No, I should know also that. What I should know, how the people are suffering. Then we can praise the path which we have got. Then only you will appreciate, na? Early morning, one is waking up, chanting. How a person will appreciate the thing what he has. Somebody told Mataji, my children are not now interested in devotional service because from my childhood, I told them not to talk to anyone. I said, this is the wrong thing. Not to talk to anyone, not to have any friendship, just close the eyes. Doesn't work. Vidyamcha yastad veda ubhayam saha. Very clearly it has been said. Show what is avidya also. Then only you will appreciate what is vidya. Okay. Vaishnav Gaur Prabhu, read.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Since the creation of material world, everyone has been trying to attain a permanent life. But the laws of nature are so cruel that no one has been able to avoid the hand of death. No one wants to die. मतलब मेरे यहाँ से डिस्टर्बेंस आ रही है क्या? कुछ कर हो रहा है?
नहीं.
किसी और का अनम्यूट है क्या?
नहीं.
Okay. Nor does anyone wants to become. No one wants to die. Nor does anyone want to become old or diseased. The law of nature, however, does not allow anyone immunity from old age, disease, or death. Nor has the advancement of material knowledge solved these problems. Material science can discover the nuclear bomb to accelerate the process of death, but it cannot discover anything that can protect man from cruel hands of old age, disease, and death. From the Puranas, we learn of the activities of Hiranyakashipu, a king who was very much advanced materially, wanting to conquer cruel death by his material acquisitions and the strength of his nescience. He underwent a type of meditation so severe that the inhabitants of all the planetary systems became disturbed by his mystic powers. He forced the creator of the universe, the demigod Brahma, to come down to him. He then asked Brahma for the benediction of becoming Amar, by which one does not die. Brahma said that he could not award the benediction of, because even he, the material creator who rules all planets, is not Amar, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 8.17. Brahma lives a long time, but that does not mean he is immortal. Hiranya means gold and Kashipu means soft bed. This cunning gentleman Hiranyakashipu was interested in these two things, money and women, and he wanted to enjoy them by becoming immortal. He asked
Prabhupada
from
writes very
Brahma.
nicely, this cunning
Yes,
person.
cunning gentleman. So he wanted to enjoy them by becoming immortal. He asked from Brahma many benedictions in hopes of indirectly fulfilling his desire to become immortal. Since Brahma told him that he could not grant the gift of immortality, Hiranyakashipu requested that he not be killed by any man, animal, god, or any other living being within 84 lakh species. He also asked that he not die on land, in the air, or water, or by any weapon. In this way, Hiranyakashipu foolishly thought these guarantees would save him from death. Ultimately, however, although Brahma granted him all these benedictions, he was killed by the personality of Godhead in the form of Narsimha, the Lord's half lion, half man incarnation. And no weapon was used to kill him, for he was killed by the Lord's nails. Nor was he killed on the land, in the air, or in the water, for he was killed on the lap of that wonderful living being Narsimha, who was beyond his conception. The whole point here is that even Hiranyakashipu, the most powerful of materialists, could not become deathless by his various plans. What then can be accomplished by the tiny Hiranyakashipus of today, those whose plans are thwarted from moment to moment? Shri Ishopanishad instructs us not to make one-sided attempts to win the struggle for existence. Everyone is struggling hard for existence, but the laws of material nature are so hard and fast that they do not allow anyone to surpass them. In order to attain a permanent life, one must be prepared to go back to Godhead. Continue, Madhavi.
Yes, yes.
The process by which one goes back to Godhead is a different branch of knowledge, and it has to be learned from revealed Vedic scriptures such as Upanishad, Vedant Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam. To become happy in this life and attain a permanent blissful life after leaving this material body, one must study this sacred literature and obtain transcendental knowledge. The conditioned living being has forgotten his eternal relationship with God and has mistakenly accepted the temporary place of his birth as all in all. The Lord has kindly delivered the above mentioned scriptures in India and other scriptures in other countries to remind the forgetful man, human being, that his home is not here in this material world. The living being is a spiritual entity, and he can be happy only by returning to his spiritual home. From his kingdom, the personality of Godhead sends his bona fide servants to propagate this message by which one can return to Godhead. And sometimes the Lord comes himself to do this work. Since all living beings are his beloved sons, his parts and parcels, God is more sorry than we ourselves to see the sufferings we are constantly undergoing in this material condition. The miseries of this material world serve to indirectly remind us of our incompatibility with this dead matter. Intelligent living entities generally take note of these reminders and engage themselves in the culture of Vidya or transcendental knowledge. Human life is the best opportunity for the culture of spiritual knowledge, and a human being who does not take advantage of this opportunity is called Naradhma, the lowest of human beings. The path of avidya or advancement of material knowledge for sense gratification is the path of repeated birth and death. As he exists spiritually, the living entity has no birth or death. Birth and death apply to the outward covering of the spirit soul, the body. Death is compared to the taking off and birth to the putting on of outward garments. Foolish human beings who are grossly absorbed in the culture of avidya, nay science, do not mind this cruel process. Enamored with the beauty of the illusory energy, they undergo the same misery repeatedly and do not learn any lessons from the laws of nature. Therefore, the culture of vidya or transcendental knowledge is essential for the human being. Sense enjoyment in the diseased material condition must be restricted as far as possible. Unrestricted sense enjoyment in this bodily condition is the path of ignorance and death. The living entities are not without spiritual senses. Every living being in his original spiritual form has all the senses, which are now materially manifested, being covered by the material body and mind. The activities of the material senses are perverted reflections of the activities of the original spiritual senses. In his diseased condition, the spirit soul engages in material activities under the material covering. Real sense enjoyment is possible only when the disease of materialism is removed. In our pure spiritual form, free from all material contamination, real enjoyment of the senses is possible. A patient must regain his health before he can truly enjoy sense pleasure again. Thus, the aim of human life should not be to enjoy perverted sense enjoyment, but to cure the material disease. Aggravation of the material disease is no sign of knowledge, but a sign of avidya, ignorance. For good health, a person should not increase his fever from 105 degree to 107 degree, but should reduce his temperature to the normal 98.6. That should be the aim of human life. The modern trend of material civilization is to increase the temperature of the feverish material condition, which has reached the point of 107 degree in the form of atomic energy. Meanwhile, the foolish politicians are crying that at any moment the world may go to hell. That is the result of advancement of material knowledge and the neglect of the most important part of life, the culture of
When
spiritual
Prabhupada is
knowledge.
writing this, that time world wars were very famous.
Yes.
World War I, World War II.
Yes.
Prabhupada is writing all this. Yeah.
Shri Isopanisad herein warns that we must not follow this dangerous path leading to death. On the contrary, we must develop the culture of spiritual knowledge so that we may become completely free from the cruel hands of death.
Okay.
This does not mean that all activities
So
for the
here
maintenance.
Prabhupada says we must develop the culture of spiritual knowledge so that we may become completely free from the cruel hands of death. So death is inevitable, but for a person who is in the spiritual life, death is only a passing from one body to another so that one can continue his spirituality. Okay, from here, Narayana read.
Hare Krishna. Mataji, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
This does not mean that all activities for the maintenance of the body should be stopped. There is no question of stopping activities, just as there is no question of wiping out one's temperature altogether when trying to recover from a disease. To make best use of a bad bargain is the appropriate expression. The culture of spiritual knowledge necessitates the help of the body and the mind. Therefore, maintenance of the body and the mind is required if we are to reach our goal. The normal temperature should be maintained at 98.6 degrees. And the great sages and saints of India have attempted to do this by a balanced program of spiritual and material knowledge. They never allow the misuse of human intelligence for diseased sense gratification. Human activities diseased by a tendency toward sense gratification have been regulated in the Vedas under the principles of salvation. This system employs religion, economic development, sense gratification, and salvation, but at the present moment, people have no interest in religion or salvation. They have only one aim in life, sense gratification. And in order to achieve this end, they make plans for economic development. Misguided men think that religion should be maintained because it contributes to economic development, which is required for sense gratification. Thus, in order to guarantee further sense gratification after death, in heaven, there is some system of religious observance. But this is not the purpose of religion. The path of religion is actually meant for self-realization, and economic development is required just to maintain the body in a sound, healthy condition. A man should lead a healthy life with a sound mind just to realize Vidya, true knowledge, which is the aim of human life. This life is not meant for working like an ass or for culturing avidya for sense gratification. The path of Vidya is most perfectly presented in Srimad Bhagavatam, which directs a human being to utilize his life to inquire into the absolute truth. The absolute truth is realized step by step as Brahman, Paramatma, and finally Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. The absolute truth is realized by broad-minded man who has attained knowledge and detachment by following the 18 principles of the Bhagavad Gita described in the purport to Mantra 10. The central purpose of these 18 principles is the attainment of transcendental devotional service to the personality of Godhead.
These 18
Therefore,
principles will be asked in the exam. So you should know this verse. Amanitva adabhikrama sashantirarju acharya upasaran chocham sedyam atma vinigraha. Try to memorize this verse. If you know this verse, I'm telling you, you know the whole Bhagavad Gita. This is a very important verse, 13th chapter, 8 to 12 verse. Okay.
Therefore, all classes of men are encouraged to learn the art of devotional service to the Lord. The guaranteed path to the aim of Vidya is described by Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which we have presented in English as the Nectar of Devotion. The culture of Vidya is summarized in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.14 in the following words. Tasmad ekena manasa Bhagavan satvata ampati shottavya kirtitavyascha dhyeya pujascha nityata.
Only 4
Therefore,
activities are there. That is also with one pointed attention.
Tasmad ekena manasa Bhagavan satvatampati Shrotavya kirtitavyascha dhyeya pujascha
4
nityada.
activities. Shrottavya, hearing, Kirtya, which is glorifying, Deyam, meditating, Pujascha, worshipping. There are only 4 activities.
Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. Unless religion, economic development, and sense gratification aim towards the attainment of devotional service to the Lord, they are all simply different forms of nescience, as Sri Isopanisad indicates in the following mantras.
Okay, here we'll stop. Any questions you can ask. So this Saturday, I will end this whole book. Try to do that. Because from next week, new batch is starting Bhagavad Gita, new course. So your portion will be ended here. This coming Saturday morning, I'll take, somehow we have to complete it. And Friday and Saturday. Then your exams will be April 2nd week, that is 14th and 15th. Then 21 and 22. 14th, 15th is Nectar of Devotion. 21, 22 will be Shopanishad. Then you are having 2 weeks holidays. May 9th, see you in Bhakti Vaidya.
Two small clarifications.
Yeah.
Can I? Mantra number 10. These 18 principles were given. Principle number 18, there is sentence. One should become a scientist or philosopher and conduct research into the spiritual knowledge. Does this research has any special meaning or connotation? Because normally it is said there is no scope for any research in the scriptural injunctions because this is spoken by the Lord. So there is no scope of any research in the Vedic
There is scope,
literature.
but the result will be whatever given in the scripture. It's not that there is no scope. You can do as much research as possible according to the intelligence till what length the intelligence goes. But again, you'll come to the same conclusion which is there in the Shrutis.
Okay. So what is the mean that a devotee individual should conduct some research in spiritual. What we are expected to do?
Yeah, research means whatever injunctions has been said, try it out.
Okay.
Do it. Experience the bliss.
Okay.
Prabhupada said, if you say sugar is sweet, you should research it. Nah? You do it. Research. What
Okay.
is research? Research means research. Again, search. Is it clear?
Practically, we should implement and try to learn.
You should implement
Okay.
and try to learn.
And second issue is point number 14. One should not be more attached to wife, children at home. My simple, always, we are all souls, whether he or she. And Gita teachings are meant for everybody. Why every time in the it is said that
Wife,
man should not be
children,
attached to wife or children. Nowhere it is said that wife should not be more attached to husband or children.
wife
Is there?
should be attached to the devotee's husband and to serve him nicely.
Because I was thinking
It's our
we are all
duty to
souls.
be attached
And
to
Gita
his
is meant for all the humanity.
But every dress has a particular responsibility. So it is a duty of a person getting a man's body to elevate himself in Krishna consciousness and also elevate his dependents. His dependents are his wife, children. It is a duty of the wife to serve the husband and be attached to him, not attached, to be attached to him so that he can. It is other way. It is like the wife should be attached, but the husband should not be attached to the wife. He should be attached to Krishna. And she should be attached to the devotee who is attached to Krishna. That is how, if you see Shiva Parvati also. Parvati is attached to Shiva. Shiva is attached to Prabhu Ram. That is how it flows.
Got it in the right spirit. Thank you.
Yes, they are Sagar Prabhu.
I have one simple question, not philosophical, about reading Sanskrit from Mantra 9. Ye avidyam, ye vidyam, or ye vidyam.
Ya avidyam upasati. Avidya. Kama is put. Ya avidyam upasati. Andham tama pravishanti avidyam upasati. Tato bhuya ivate tamo yau vidyamritaha. Whoever is developing the culture of the science will go to hell. Andham. The more dangerous is vidyamritaha.
So is it correctly to say ye avidyam or ye vidyam? Ye vidyam.
Yavidyam. Yavidyam. You should go there in such a way. Should be there at the same time, should not be very distinctly heard also. Yavidyam upasati.
Yeah. A little bit.
The elegance of speech actually. Yavidyam upasati.
Thank you.
Okay. So you have enough time to study Nectar of Devotion. Just go through all the questions. Be all simple only, don't worry. And then you have time to study Isopanisad also. And then 21st and 22nd will be Isopanisad exam. You have nice 23rd onwards and leave up to 8th March, 8th May, 8th, 23rd April to 8th May. And then 9th May will start Bhakti Vaibhav. I request all of you to join Bhakti Vaibhav. Don't say, I don't have time, I'm coming from office, whatever you may do. You are going to study because Bhakti Shastri is meant for repeating the studies, not stopping the studies. It is not that I study, I am now Shastrik, I am Bhakti Shastri, no. Bhakti Vaibhav will make you repeat the whole subject again because everything is interconnected. Bhakti Shastri is interconnected with Bhakti Vaibhav. You can be a good Bhakti Shastri student if you study Bhagavatam nicely. If you study Bhagavatam, you should study in the eyes of Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So these 6-7 years of your tapasya Actually, after that, you will become Sarvabhauma. You know that? What is after Bhakti Vaibhav? It is Bhakti Sarvabhauma. Once you complete Bhakti Shastri 6th canto, then it will extend more like this. You complete the whole thing, 12 cantos. Then you will do Bhakti Sarvabhauma. Bhakti Sarvabhauma is relishing every song written by Acharyas with respect to Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam studies. Just after your 10 years of tapasya. Okay. All are ready for tapasya.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Yes,
Harita
just a
Prabhuji.
quick
Yes,
question,
Harita
Mataji.
Prabhuji. Yes, Roji.
What is the course curriculum for Bhakti Vaibhav?
Yes. First 6 years will go in 6 cantos. 4 to 5 years will go in 6 cantos. After 6th canto, slowly one progresses ahead till 12 cantos. After that will be Sarvabhauma, where every Acharya's work will be studied with respect to the teachings of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam.
So, how long is the course for Bhakti Vaibhav, Mataji?
4 years.
Hari
4 to
bol.
5 years.
I thought it is 3 months.
No. 3 months also we can do, but you'll be completely confused.
Yeah, that.
It has to be released.
Yes,
Subject has to be
3
years,
months, 20,
cantos.
24/7, 3 months.
What?
24/7, then 3 months. But
Yes.
one and a half or 3 days a week, then it will be 4 years.
Yeah, wonderful. So it is 6 cantos, 4 years, right, Mataji? Hare Krishna, Hari Bol. Hari Hari, Radhe Radhe.
Okay, where is Nainu? Nainu is going to sing anything.
She's coming, Mataji.
Nainu is also going to do Bhakti Vaibhav. Nainu?
Ashwathama Balirvyaso Hanuman Mr. Vibhishanah Vipaha Parshuramascha Saptete Chirajivinaha.
Oh, Chiranjeevis. How many Chiranjeevis are there?
How many are there? 7.
7.
Can you tell me the names?
Yes. Ashwathama Balirvyaso
Bali,
Balir
Vyasaha,
Vyasaha Hanuman Vibhishanah Kripaha Parshuramascha Saptete Chirajivinaha.
Haribo.
Vanchakalpatarubhaisya Kripan Sindhubheva cha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Vaishnavinda ki jai.
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.